Welcome back to the DJ Sessions, where we present the best DJs and producers from around the world. I'm your host, Darren, and right now we're doing a virtual sessions episode with none other than Scott Kirkland from The Crystal Method. Scott, how's it going today?
It's going very well, Darren. Darren, how are you doing?
I'm great. We're up here in Seattle. The weather is the typical way that it is up here, cloudy in the morning, sunny in the afternoon, or sometimes rainy in the afternoon. You were just here doing a show for the Tripped Out tour. And, it's been a long time since I've actually seen you in person. We first had you on a series of ours that predated the DJ sessions called ITV Nightlife back in 2010. You were playing one of the USC events here at WAMU Theater. And nice. You had blessed our couch, our interview setup there at the time. So thank you so much again for coming back on the show. A lot has happened over the last 12 years. And I'm so honored to have you on the series, and thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Good to be back.
Yeah. So going into the Tripped Out tour, you started this in August. You just were in Seattle, as I mentioned, and you're finishing in New Year's Eve with another pickup date in New Orleans coming up. What has that been like, getting back out on the road, being back out on tour?
Well, it was initially pretty strange. I mean, obviously being in COVID protocols for the past 18 months. I did a short run in May where I played Dallas, Austin, and Jacksonville around Memorial Day. So going into those states where COVID protocols weren't really the top priority, it was odd. I mean, I'm fully vaccinated, so I took liberties with that by playing without a mask, and then when my thing is, I always love going out and instead of ending the show and going backstage and drinking or hanging out, I jump right off the stage and hang out with people and talk to people. And as if you've been around as long as I have, you have fans that have stories that they'd like to share and I like to hear, and it's always the best way to end the night, to make a personal connection with as many fans as possible and take pictures and sign stuff. And so being fully vaccinated, I felt very comfortable doing that. And of course I've tested my after going out for weekends, and I've done safety protocols as far as my health and the health of my family. But it was odd, of course, just being so away from that environment, away from crowds. But once you get up on stage and once you start to play music and you get the sound system, and they always make sure the monitors are great for you, and it's really easy to get back into the flow. And I just had a really great time just playing music, playing some stuff off the new album, and testing things out. I was still in the process of finishing it up. So those dates in May and when I started going back out in late August and early September, it really helped me hear the tracks in a different environment. And there's a community out there of people that love to go out, listen to music, dance, let themselves, have some fun. And it was great to connect with that community again.
And you got to actually do your show here in Seattle at one of our, I'd say it's not a newer club because it just actually moved locations, but they just reopened, and it's the Crocodile in their new location. What was your experience like playing there, being one of the first touring acts to come through that club? What was that experience like?
It was fantastic. The band has a long, wonderful relationship with the city of Seattle, and we've been going up there. I think one of our first ever shows was playing some back the Bubble Beats, some rave out in a farmland outside of Seattle, and so It's a beautiful city. It's one of my favorite cities to visit and to play. I've taken my family up there many times, and so to get to play at the Crocodile, new venue, but a legendary, venue as far as like the history of the Seattle scene and the history of music in America. A lot of bands played in the Crocodile. So getting a chance to crack open the new venue and play for people and again in the beautiful Northwest was a great deal of fun for me. I love the venue. They're still working on the main room. The downstairs is phenomenal. It's like a little speakeasy. They've got a little bar in the front, so people that can come and hang out, even if they don't have a ticket, they can go and maybe hear the music and and have some drinks and it's great. And they have a hotel there as well. So I stayed at the hotel, little boutique hotel. So another odd experience. Basically going up a flight of stairs and going right to the stage or going right into the venue. So the dressing rooms are great. It was an honor and a privilege to be able to play there. And I look forward to going back there sometime in the near future.
I've heard nothing but great stuff about that place. One of our resident DJs, DJ Dangerous, managed to check out your show there, said it was phenomenal. I unfortunately was in Mexico, but said it was phenomenal. I just hear such great things about the space, and we're really excited to have that as kind of a jewel to the Seattle nightlife and entertainment lineup. Really excited to get out there. Question coming in, I hope this relates to the Trip Out tour. This is, I wouldn't say it's from one of our ardent fans, but definitely I'm an ardent fan of this person. And this is a guest question that's coming in, and you probably know the guy. His name goes by the name Dave Dresden.
Yes,
and he asked the question when I said, "Do you have any questions for Scott or the Crystal Method?" He asked, "Can you trip like I do?" Is there some meaning behind that our viewers that we don't know, or is there some inside joke, or what is "Can I trip like I do" mean to you?
I think that I know that Dave and Ken and I have been friends for many years, and we've floated around the LA scene together and been to many late night events. So I'm surprised he would have to ask that. Of course, I could trip like Dave does, and I'm ready and willing to trip with him again, whatever the hell that means.
That's why he threw to us. I'm like, I'm gonna ask. I'm gonna get this in there. You mentioned that you have an album coming out. You're playing. You're doing your tour. What is one track that you currently play on your tour that you can describe in detail why it's such a great production and why you would use that?
Well, from the album,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Well, I've been playing the first single, Housebroken, featuring Nas Tokyo, at my sets, and it's a little sidewinder kind of track, 124 BPM, but it has a really great build and drop, and it brings I've been, one of the great things is taking some video of the crowds during those moments and posting them in my stories, and it's a fun track to play. It's a good release track, get people going, and it's always important for me to find the right spot to drop it. It's one of the great things about getting to do a tour and playing multiple nights a week. You get to I try not to. Nobody never plays the same set again. That's impossible to play the same set. But I usually like like they say, football teams, they'll script their first 10 plays. I might script my first 5 to 10 songs, and then at that point I kind of let the middle hour kind of just be a free flow of sometimes I'll hear something from the crowd, or a request from the crowd, or sometimes in the middle of, the set, I'll hear something that in my mind I'll think that, that, oh, I should play that one here, or what if I, or somebody may have sent me something, a DM earlier in the night, or a conversation I had with someone else. So it's always like I'm always, before the show, on my computer looking through, trying to find a couple of different tracks. But so it's always great finding a place for Housebroken, and then and then the second single, Act Right, featuring Billy Dean Thomas and Val, is a down tempo 94 BPM track that resets the room a bit. I tend to get a little bored with the tempo, and I'll drop things down. And of course I want to get to some of the other tracks that are in the tempos, like Name of the Game, or the big track off of the last album, The Trip Home, Holy Arp, High Rollers, of course, down tempo and 86 BPM. So it's always those are two good tracks that two different tempos, two different vibes, but both of them have been going over really well with crowds.
And I noticed that you have a pretty awesome pair of headsets that you wear on stage. What brand of headsets are those? Do you trust? Is there a specific model that people need to know about? Were those custom built for you?
Well, they have the logo on them there. They are they're from Blue, normally known for their incredible microphones, but they made these. They did two different colors. They did well, actually, I think that maybe mine was the first. No, I knew that they were doing the Stormtrooper white, and I just loved. I love them. This particular pair is a little beaten up, but what they have is they have this really great swivel action. So when I'm DJing, I tend not to, I tend to like the room better, and I use them just to clarify where something's coming in, or to cue something up, or to if the room's a little, it has a little bit of bounce, then I can use them for reference. They're loud enough for me. They're comfortable, and they allow me to be a little mysterious with when I drop them in front of my eyes, and it's weird. I because I'm always looking down, and it's always the thing that DJs that are dealing with. They have to engage the crowd. They have to bring the crowd in, but they also have to stare down a lot, and they have to look. It's sort of a nice way for me to still look like I'm staring. I'm like, so lots of times I'll be like, I'm listening to the music. I'm a fan of going out. I have been since I was 19 years old, going to clubs, going to raves, being in those environments where the music is, the source of all that is happening in the room, and all the people in the room are part of that environment. And so yeah, I love them because they allow to hide my eyes a bit, and I can look down. So I'm, lots of times I'm like, like this, but I'm looking down, trying to, find the next track or cue up the next track, or working, because I love having the 3 to 4, CDJs, and keeping one little loop going from, the previous track, and then, teasing something or bringing something back in. I love, a lot of DJs now just slam. They like to bring things in and out. And I grew up where in the mix, the magic happens when 2 songs come together. It's like it's something that I think is very unique to the world of DJing. That doesn't very rarely. I think I've only heard a couple bands do a live mix of two different songs. You know, I think it's funny. I can't remember. It was I can't remember the name of the band, but they did that really well one time. But normally that's just that's a product of the DJ environment. So I've always been a big fan of that. So having all those things going on and having to look down a lot, the headphones really help to keep me engaged and it has a little bit of mystery to the whole environment. But yeah, these they don't, unfortunately, Blue doesn't make these anymore. They do make these. These are the Mix-Fi, and these are more of a in studio. These have an amp in them. These are equally not as swivel, but they swivel a lot. These are adjustable, so I kind of have a big head, and I also like because the way that I move around, so I can easily lift this one up. You know, I can lift them both up, and they sound great, and they're very comfortable, and they've been my signature headphones for the past 3 years since I've been going back out since 2017 now. It's 2000. Ken retired in 2016, and then 2017 was when I started to go back out.
So is that when you started bringing the headphones down over the eyes? Would you say?
You know, I did. It's when two people are DJing and they're using the same pair of headphones, it's kind of difficult to do that because, you know, I'm comfortable with my own sweat going into my eyes. I'm not, you know, I wasn't always a big fan of my partner's, our shared, perspiration being, but it's one of those things you can't help. And also it just, you know, when two people are DJing, it's fun, it's a challenge because you don't know, you're kind of like, what is he going to play? What's his third song going to be? Then I'm starting to think about my song with DJing on my own. It's been such I don't drink as much. That's good. That's one thing, because there's a lot of downtime when two people are DJing. When two people are DJing, there's only so many hand pumps I can give the crowd. There's always reaching for a cocktail or something like that. So that's the not as much drinking as it would be with two, but also just the whole focus and crafting a set and taking people on that journey and it's super fun. This past weekend in Seattle and Portland was a blast. I'm sorry you missed it.
I'm sorry I did. I would have loved to have been there. The reason why I'm going on the headphones thing is I started a move about 12 years ago during our first live streams, and I would be dancing so much during the live streams, my headsets would fall down and go over my eyes, and I would start doing the robot to it, and I actually started calling the move the Geordie LaForge.
Oh, nice.
And so I kind of like patented that move as like, that's what I would do during the shows. And I'd go into do the Geordie. I'm a huge Trekkie, huge Star Trek fan.
Yes.
So
that look,
the visor on, and I was like doing the thing. Yeah. So I just was wondering if you were giving homage in a sense, if you were a sci-fi kind of guy and was like, I can see through this, but I can't see through this because I'm actually looking down, but I am blinded. But you're not blinded. I don't know. It just kind of was.
Yeah, I know. I have a. My mom has this picture in one of her photo albums from early on. And my dad was a big music guy, and he and back in those days he had giant headphones. And when I was a kid, I would play music on the holidays. So there's and I was also shy. So there's a picture of me where the headphones have just fallen in front of my eyes. And I'm sure that, there was, back in my day, like, Battlestar Galactica had the Cylons, they had their little thing. And, and of course, any robot from, to Star, thinking, because it was, but they were black and they were just big and they they kind of just, it was almost like, oh, look, it's like the little puppy, putting on, the big shirt or something like that. So it was something that happened naturally. But yeah, but definitely there's, especially with the white, like I said, they're like Stormtrooper white. So there's definitely, I am a sci-fi fan as well. So there's definitely a little bit of that for sure that comes out in the
almost Cybermanish, if you could think about it, if you're a Doctor Who fan.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, like I said, just wanted to ask you about that. I thought it was kind of cool. I saw it. I'm like, oh, he's pulling the Geordie Ford. Yeah. Cool. I love it.
I don't do the robot though. I don't, that's not a move. That's not a move I've ever been able to do. But so you definitely have it up on me on that one there.
Awesome. After weeks and months of heavy touring, what do you like to do when you get back home to chill down, to tone down, and just enjoy life? What is Scott going to do after the first year? I mean, you got the New Orleans show coming up, but what happens after the New Year's Eve tour? What does Scott's life look like?
Well, I've got some other things that are happening that I can't really speak of right now that I'll be going into rehearsals for. And then, yeah, I for me, it's just, try to give my ears a break. And if my schedule is open, then I spend some time at home with the kids and get, reacclimated to being a father and a husband. But yeah, I do, this will be the first weekend that I haven't played in probably 2 months or maybe more. So yeah, it's odd. I mean, I enjoy many aspects of touring. There's also obviously the many aspects of it that can be grueling, the travel and the early flights and the multiple flights and the and the limited sleep. But it's always just for me, I love going into cities. I love, my phone just went off for me, sorry. Something happening in the sports world. I love, going out to, the restaurants, the local restaurants and getting down and hanging out with the local crews while they set everything up. And again, it's something that, I'm not taking for granted, the opportunity to go back out and perform and perform for people. So when I get done, I'm going to let my ears rest as much as because they've been taking a lot of abuse over the last 25 years. So yeah, it'll be some downtime and getting in the studio. I got to, now that I'm done with this album, I got some cleaning up to do and resetting for the next chapter.
Yeah, and you mentioned going out to clubs and events, and you've played some of the biggest shows in the world. A friend of mine asked me online, one of the questions was, are you planning to play Burning Man, the Fence Party again this coming up year? I believe he said you played that the year, not last year, but the year before.
Yeah, 2019. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2019. Yeah. I'm always I'm always down to experience Burning Man and to bring my my sound and give back to the community. It's always a great deal of fun for me. There's nothing else like it. It's such a spiritual event, and it's being part of the community and being part of the shared experience of riding around the playa, with a bunch of strangers that at any moment can become your best friend. So it's a unique experience for sure. And so I'd love to go back. I'm always looking at opportunities to take people with me that maybe haven't experienced it. So if that comes around, I definitely will. I'll definitely be into it.
And you mentioned something. No, I have not been. I've missed last year, but Looking forward to the possibility of going this year. It'll be definitely one of those bucket list items. I'm more of a festival goer now than I don't want to throw any particular production or entity under the bus, but I like the more open door outside camping festivals where it's all inclusive as opposed to the go inside and hang out. I recently just went to my first EDC and I loved it. It was a phenomenal experience. It was beautiful. I mean, just everything there was just so amazing. But I like
camping there.
They have camping there now.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we had an RV and we got to park in Premier, but it didn't allow in-out privileges to go back and forth to the RV. If we were in camping, you could go in and out, back and forth, but that was all filled up. But you know, that's how I do it. If I went back, I would be there so I can go back and forth. And if I want to catch a nap, I can catch a nap and come back in.
Burning Man's for you then. Burning Man is all about doing what you want to do and when you want to do it. And
yeah,
and yeah, yeah. So but yeah, I understand that. Yeah, it's definitely a pain in the ass to, you know, to make the big trek in, go through all the nonsense with like security and parking, and then you know, be locked down in one spot for 5 to 6 hours. That you know, being able to go in and out is definitely the way to go. So I think you will definitely enjoy Burning Man, especially if you do you know, if you're able to do any kind of RV or any kind of spot where you can escape the elements. Not that it's necessarily you know, sometimes there's wind, sometimes there's heat, sometimes there's even cold. But you know, it's truly unlike anything else that you can experience, and there's just so many different opportunities to see something, that hear something, experience something that you've never experienced before. So I highly recommend it. It's a commitment for sure, but it's well worth the effort.
Yeah, my first experience was in 2017. I managed to go to the Eclipse Festival, which was just right in Oregon, so not too far from where I'm based out of Seattle, Washington. And that really was the one that kind of changed my perspective on these big level festivals. And the numbers still were coming in, and some would say 25,000, some would say 50,000, some would say 75,000 were in attendance. And, you know, it was just amazing the way the place was just laid out. It was so magical for me. It just, I think one of my next bucket lists will be Electric Forest.
Yeah.
I definitely want to try to get out to the Electric Forest one. It just looks so amazing.
Yeah, I think we played the first or second one. I don't even know if it's the same location, but yeah, it was really lovely.
Yeah, going into big events and clubs and dance events, you know, you've played on that stage in front of tens of thousands of people, maybe hundreds of thousands of people, you know, and now, you know, you're on tour doing the club thing and all that fun stuff. Do you feel that people should look at the DJ like they're rock stars, or would it be more fun if DJs were more slightly anonymous and just kind of part of the bigger event?
Well, I don't know if there necessarily needs to be, you know, a particular. I think everyone is different. I mean, I think that, you know, I think it's like, you know, you have some DJs that go in and they have the way that they perform and the way that they play and the music they play, and the music alone, with an environment where the you know, you're a small dot on a giant stage with tons of screens and all the pyro and all that stuff, you know, people can get, you know, it lost, and, you know, where, you know, you just kind of become part of the environment and you don't know where the DJ is. You know, and I've played festivals, you know, where that's been the case. You know, I prefer the you know, I like, I'm a little bit of a extrovert when I'm on stage. I'm one that, you know, that is a combustible and you know, and energetic, and, you know, for me it's like, if like if I, and it's always been, it's like that when I was going back to when we were doing the live shows, when taking out the keyboards and the samplers and all that stuff, I was still that same person. So I haven't changed the way that I perform. I like to, I'm energetic. I like to, you know, I want, if people come into the show and they're like, they're milling around and, they're trying to get, themselves hyped up for the show. I'm going to be the one that's going to help them take them over the top, if you will, because I always felt that when I went to go see shows and went to go see concerts and bands play, yes, I wanted to hear the songs, but I also wanted to get the reaction that I get out of the songs. I want to see the bands, not that they need to be all extroverts and all going crazy. That's chaos. But when I would go and see New Order, Peter Hook would be like the biggest fucking sexiest rock star ever. His bass is lung slow down here, and he's just fucking having it, just being like Peter Hook. And the rest of the band's kind of timid, and they're all individuals. So what I like about any opportunity to be on stage is that you get to be yourself. And so and so also being part of that is if I went up and I was just total shit show when it came to the music side of it, then it wouldn't really work. Like I'm reacting to the music that I'm playing, and a lot of the music I'm playing has that sort of rock pulse and energy to it. But I mean, I think that I think that it's the great thing about being an artist is that you have an opportunity to be yourself and represent the music that you're playing. So I'm not the same guy when I'm taking the kids to school or I'm like I'm not like I'm a much different guy. I'm a much different guy 5 minutes before I go on stage. Like I've had people come backstage and were hanging out with me and they were like, are you tired? Are you gonna be all right? I'm like, no, I'm just in my mind just preparing and thinking about what I'm going to play, and I'm a little cerebral when before the show, and then once I go out there, then I get this natural adrenaline drop that is I get shaky. I mean I'll be like, I get real, I get this bit of nerves and a little bit of weird, that feeling of stage fright or stage anxiety or whatever it is, but it's adrenaline as well. So that's kind of the way that I work that out is by being who I am and being the capturing the what I'm doing musically with what I'm doing physically. So it's the combinations, but to each their own, really. I mean, I've gone to many shows where the band's been a bunch of shoegazers, and it's been fucking phenomenal. So it doesn't, each artist represents themselves in their own way, and I think that the crowd picks up on the on that, and I think that most importantly, I think audiences want their DJs or bands to be genuine and be in the moment.
Absolutely. And dance music in itself is kind of known for its hedonistic vibes. Yet do you think it can be used for social awareness or political messaging at times?
Well, yeah. I mean, dance music in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
electronic music.
Dance music. I mean, I think that obviously any vocal element, lyrical element, can bring bring out those specific that those lines of communication. There could be a political theme or a social theme in a track that's wrapped in a production that is energetic and fit for the dance floor. I mean, I've heard tracks that don't hit you over the head with it, but help you that bring a certain thought to mind, and I've carried those thoughts with me and those themes with me, after I've left the dance floor. But for the most part, I think that, when people go to an event, they kind of want to leave a lot of that stuff on the outside, because once again, going back to the early raves, I mean, when I was, when Ken and I were going to these sort of illegal events in and around downtown, you were in the room with a bunch of people that you had no, there was, you don't know what their political backgrounds are, or their social, backgrounds, or where they came from, what neighborhood they came from, what school they went to. You just knew that you were all in that environment, you were all having a good time, you were all enjoying the moment, and that community vibe, that gathering of, if you will, of individuals coming together and creating an event, an environment where we can all just have a shared experience. I think that's kind of sometimes more important than being, hit over the head with something, as far as, political or social, and some, that's kind of leave that to some of the some of those bands that do acoustic sets, and where they can really get into the lyrics of it and understand the themes of the songs. But anything's possible, but for the most part, I think people go into those situations where they just want to leave it all on the outside and just get out there and have some fun.
And what you were saying there strikes a chord back to one of the first raves I ever went to, first dance club nights I ever went to, where I felt that you had a mingling of so many different, I guess I would say, types of people. You had, back in the day, this is 92, so I would say you had the geeks, the nerds, the goths, the dorks, the dancers.
Yeah,
you had everyone together, and we were all just sharing a collective experience of enjoying the music, and everyone was friendly. It was before, I'm sure there was always cliques, but I was so young. I was 18 years old. I didn't see that. I saw the dancing. I saw the outfits. It was like going to be in the get the next outfit to go to the place, to be the next snazziest dressed up looking person at the rave. And you had that sense of community and culture built.
There was no status.
There's no status. There you go. That was absolutely it.
And that's one of the things that it came kind of ironic about the way that the EDM scene moved forward, is it went into bottle service status, long lines to get in, VIP lists, where one could be, where one could stand in the club, which again, that was just, none of that was part of the ethos of the electronic scene. It was all about a gathering. You can stand wherever you want, you can do whatever you want, you could be whoever you want, you didn't have to dress in a certain way, you didn't have to have a platinum card or have your name on the VIP list. You were one of many that showed up, and you left all that at the door. And so we lost a lot of that for a little while, and it it still exists. I mean, there's still privilege, there's still VIP lists, there's still VIP areas when you go to places like EDC or Coachella or any of them. There's still those that have the ways and means of getting those upgrades, and I don't think that we're ever going to get away from that. But again, because that goes back to who can afford the floor tickets, and where who could get the to the front of the line before everyone else. But I think with my crowds, I could say this is, having done this for so long, and especially having this great opportunity to be in environments where I get to hang out with the people afterward, and hang out with the staff and the security. I have great fans. I have great that come in, and they don't, there's no maybe somebody gets a little drunk, but there's not fighting, there's none of that energy that exists and sometimes in other environments. So I'm really grateful to have just a really wonderful fan base that cares about the community and shows up and has a good time and takes care of one another.
That was awesome. Perfectly said, because it leads right into it segues right into my next question. It's one of my fan questions coming in from Alora Nos Noble. She says, what is one of your best human interactions you've experienced by a random path crossing at one of your shows?
Well, I mean, there have been quite a few. Some of the ones that stick with me just off the top of my head are opportunities to meet. Somebody will be like, I've been a fan for 25 years, and then they'll go and then this is my son or daughter, and and they'll bring them. Or I've had really touching moments where I've had kids that were kids of fans of ours, and said, my dad or my older brother turned me on to you, and they're no longer with us, and I came here to experience that, and hoping to make that connection with my father or my mother or my older brother or even a friend. That I've had many opportunities to meet people that tell me just beautiful stories of the connections that they've made through our music and what our music has meant to them, and the path that they've taken. A lot of fans have been, you were the first electronic band that got me into dance music or techno, or I was a rock kid, or I was and then I heard one of your albums, and then I experienced, and I went bought some other stuff. So those are all very touching and very heartwarming. And there's I've had shows where I've met incredibly kind people who said that your album, I had to drive 6 hours. My dad died, and I had to drive 6 hours to get home to my family, and I listened to your album for the whole journey, and it helped me get through that night. It helped me make that drive. I had people tell me that they were in battles, that in situations where they were in Afghanistan, or soldiers and men and women that serve and protect our country, being in situations where they weren't sure if they were going to live or die, and they couldn't move for 5 hours, but they had their Walkmans, or they had their music with them, and they were like that, that got them through. So it's one of the reasons why I was saying that I love going and interacting with people. I'm not one that spends a lot of time on social media. I don't spend, probably to my detriment, a lot of time engaging people in Facebook or Twitter. I mean, I like Instagram because it's pretty simple, and it's pretty easy to share a moment, and without a lot of dialogue. But for me, my choice is to make those connections with fans before or after the shows, and hear their journeys or their stories that relate to our music, or just relate to just friends that they've had and friends that they still have, that we all got. We haven't been out in 5 years. We wanted to come back out and go to your show, and so making those connections and reconnections. So yeah, I mean, there's so many of them, and I'm always incredibly humbled and grateful that people would take the time to not only come to the show, but hang out with me and share them with me when it's all done.
Absolutely, that was awesome. Now, coming to you've mentioned several times of how you like to engage with your crowd. You like to see the crowd. You like to meet up with them after the show and interact with them. Even a little bit on how your social media practices are. What was it like, or have you looked at, I should say, live streaming? Were you doing anything over the last few years and looking at that as a medium?
I did 3 over the lockdown and the pandemic. I did 3 different events in Las Vegas, maybe it was 4. I know it was at least 3. And I thought, you know, and I thought about it. I put I had a little setup over here where I had the decks. These used to be in the corner, and so I thought, you know, maybe I'll do something, you know, do some sort of you know, monthly, you know, from the studio, but yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed doing the 3 streaming events I did, and I you know, and I like, it was interesting because a lot of those are about, like, you know, the chat rooms that are happening at the time, and again, like, I'm too busy to engage, like, you know, to be able to, like, look over and so I you know, it'd be one of those things. I think if I ever did it again, I'd like to find a way to set up some sort of, like, screen thing where I could see, instead of seeing obviously the crowd, I could see either, you know, what, you know, some of the chat room stuff, or was able to find some way to communicate directly through, you know, to make that connection through a screen and through an internet connection. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy them, and you know, if I like the idea of doing those, like, I haven't done one yet, but to do a show in an environment where there was a crowd, and also do a live stream from those shows, because I think that would, because even when I record my sets, it's really, you know, you got to make sure you have the right crowd mics to get the way the room feels, and the, you know, the little the dips and valleys and the dynamics of what's happening in the room, and the little I never have the same experience, like, where I listen back to a recording and I'm like, oh, that really captured the vibe that was going on in the room. I think a live stream would, where you'd had, you know, 1 or 2 cameras positioned in the room, and you could do that. But yeah, for the most part, I'm much happier in front of a live audience, and in a room where, you know, the sound's great, and there's a little eye candy to keep people, you know, sort of, you know, into the moment and part of the environment.
You mentioned something about the interaction that I wanted to kind of move forward on here. Is, what about your thoughts of VR and AR? Have you looked into doing anything in a VR environment, or with augmented reality? Or AR is still kind of just, it's coming. It isn't out there in mainstream yet, but VR is definitely hitting the market. We ourselves at the DJ Sessions, we're building a VR nightclub. We're in dev of that right now to get in there. So eventually, you know, these interviews that we do, we aren't streaming them live right now because the technology we use, but we eventually want to have viewers come into that nightclub where they can watch this interview in mass through VR in the nightclub, and the screen could be literally as large as an IMAX theater in VR. And they're like, whoa, this is cool. You could have different aspects and everything else going on. And then we could have our DJs playing the live shows and do events and concerts and all that fun stuff in a VR environment. And have you been tapped, or are you looking at that in any way, shape, or form for the future?
I have not. I'm one that and I know that the VR experience is much different now, but I'm one that gets a little woozy when I'm, you know, I'm fine if I'm just sitting down, but if the VR environment requires me to move, then that's the game changer. I immediately I get a queasiness and you know, and which is, you know, it's a real thing, where your brain can't catch up, and where actually the VR one element is fast for the other, and you just get a little discombobulated, and so I haven't really done a lot of that, or done it. And we did a score to a short Google VR that was done by uh, Justin Lin, the director of all the Fast and Furious things. He did this thing called Help. I think it was called Help. It was a few years ago, that where you were able to take your device, viewing device, and you were able to move it around. And so you could, it had a couple moments where you had to move forward, but for segments of it, you could actually, something would happen and then you could look around and see over here, and then you'd hear the monster or something coming behind you, and you turn around, and then all of a sudden you'd be running, with the, and then you turn around. And so that was interesting, because that was gameplay with a little bit of that augmented reality, virtual reality, but it was also very regimented to being on your device. So it was more like a window rather than being, in it. I know that there's lots of things coming forward that are gonna change the way that people experience shows, and I'm interested in that. Again, it sort of falls in with the online streaming sort of events, because you're in somebody is able to experience the show in their own home, or their in their environment, without having to deal with going out or getting on a plane or waiting in line and stuff like that. So I definitely understand that there's and for those that are growing up with VR, that's going to be something that is very attractive to them, and in that community. But not I haven't done really much of that to date. But it's interesting, and it's part of the future. So I can understand why you guys are spending some time trying to bring that together, and create that sort of environment for people to experience it.
Definitely. It'd be interesting to, if somebody came, like you mentioned, I was listening to you back, the Vegas album was my first introduction to y'all, and that used to be something I played over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. It was every Friday night. If it was 9 o'clock, that CD went in, and that's what I got ready to go out to every Friday and every Saturday night, over and over. I can't wait. I was just thinking, we have a new mobile studio. I don't know if you got a chance to check out our site, but we have a glass box truck that we built into a mobile television studio that we use to go to events with. We just put a concert grade sound system on the back, and nice. I'm going to take the Vegas album, and it's loud. It's really loud, like 5 blocks down the street loud. And I want to pop that in and listen to that. Just that experience of different experiences, and of course catering to the new and younger generation, that they're going to be dialing into these things. Everyone already has a mobile device. We all got computers. We all got mobile devices. We're seeing that the VR headsets are going to come out. We're also, Apple is coming out with glasses. Contact lenses are on the development side of things, to get us the AR experience. And, I think even at the major festivals, I don't think you're ever going to replace that, but you're going to be able to use those devices, not necessarily the VR headsets, but the glasses and the contact lenses, maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years out. You'll go to a show and you'll see it in a completely different way if you have those on. And that would be just even bigger and better. I mean, I was at EDC and they had the owl flying with the drone, or well, it turned into the big owl and was flying over the stage with the drones. And you can just imagine having like an AR fireworks show, or the stages could have this AR component to it. You're still there physically sharing it with people in real life, but having that AR experience would just be awesome as well.
I did a Riot Games a championship event, and a few years back in China, where they did some really elaborate dragon thing that flew in, and it was only for those that were viewing it on the screen that could see it. But I mean, they made it to where it swooped into the natural environment in such a way that it felt like, it was a real kind of game-changing sort of visual element that will, again, will just continue to step up and bring this a whole different level of production and the collaborative efforts of these people that do visuals and do things that are normally in games. Again, you're bridging all kinds of of things and bringing lots of different things together. So it's interesting. I mean, it's it's a wild. I mean, it's a wild thing for sure. I mean, when we first started DJing, again, I can walk around with 700 crates of records on one USB drive. So I mean, that's things are definitely things have been changing quite rapidly over the years. So I can only imagine where things are going to be 5-10 years down the line.
Absolutely. You mentioned earlier Justin Lin. It was Justin Lin that worked on the Fast and Furious.
Yes.
Yeah, you've worked on several film and television projects in the past. If you could score a major Hollywood movie or just a movie in general, what director would have your preference? Who would you really want to work with if you had that opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of great directors out there. There's that I admire. I mean, Quentin Tarantino, but I mean, I can admire something and know that I would never be the right person to do that, to do the music. So, I mean, for me, it would just be about anyone that was, passionate about, what I did and the sound that they, I did recently, well, not recently, it's been a few years now, but I had the great opportunity to work with Guillermo del Toro on his animated series, Three Below, which was a part of this Netflix series of a trilogy of shows. One was Trollhunters, and then Three Below, and then Wizards, and then sort of they all came together for this Rise of the Titans movie. So did the theme for Three Below, went in, met with him. He couldn't have been more gracious, more kind, more enthusiastic about having, having me come in and work on the theme. And so that, I mean, if that would be the experience that I would like that would make me excited and sort of answer your question. Anybody that had his enthusiasm for what I did and was was into the collaborative effort of creating something that I that they felt that I could like contribute to.
I'm gonna have to go check that out now. That sounds like something right up my viewing.
Yeah, it's a great, like, so the Trollhunters was the first one. It's and then Three Below. So the theme for Trollhunters is done by the theme for Trollhunters done by Alexander Splat, which is one of the most prolific composers out there right now. Just beautiful, remarkable composer and artist. And then yeah, I did the one for Three Below, and then there's a couple of episodes in Three Below where Tobias, a very good friend of mine and collaborator who has a studio in my building right next door here, he does more orchestral stuff and things like that. So we did the couple an episode in the Three Below series. I can't remember which one it was now, but then for the Rise of the Titans, did the closing credits theme for that, and then a couple really cool scenes in the movie itself. So so yeah, that never forget the beautiful response and gracious moments I had with Guillermo. That's definitely at any time I, if I see his caller ID coming through, I'm picking up that phone.
Absolutely. You know, if there is one production tip insight you could give, or something you could give to the new producers that are out there, what would that be?
Yeah, I would be, just try to be, try to sound like try to sound different. You don't, I mean, there's a lot of people that are trying to sound the same. There's a lot of tutorials out there like how to get this sound and how to there's templates out there like, recreate this, this sound or this song or this vibe. And those are all good for like, you know, educating yourself on how instruments work and, how to, to accomplish, a particular style or a sound or a production technique. But most important thing is for me is to sound like yourself and to forge your own path and it's all right to bring other things in, but you got to be unique and you got to stand out and you got to do something that that is personal and genuine to your style and your creative vision.
Absolutely. I've never really taken a stab at music production. I am an editor and I have had to do, I wouldn't call it scoring, but I've made some little songs here and there. I used to work for Apple back in the day, and I went the editing route. I'm a video editor, not the sound guy, not the composer. I let the musicians handle the musicians' job. I let the DJs handle the DJ's job. I do editing and all that fun stuff. I like doing the executive producing side of things more than I like the business of it, which a lot of people don't. But yeah, just finding a way that you're creating your own vibe, creating your own thing, not trying to duplicate what others are doing. I think that's one of the key takeaway that I get what you're saying there. And that's awesome because, just like you said, churning out the same thing over and over and over again, you're not really progressing in a sense. You're not moving yourself forward, but you are learning, and using it as a learning tool would be definitely something to have in your arsenal. So 25 years plus in the game, if someone were to write a biography about you, what do you think the title should be?
Oh, that's a very difficult question to, two guys from Vegas. I don't know. I'm thinking of the Italian restaurant, Two Guys from Italy, but I don't know. I think that it's difficult. I think that the story's still being written. I'm really enjoying the process of taking what Ken and I started and what we created in the first 20 years and moving forward and continuing the legacy of the Crystal Method, but also expanding it and working with others that I'm into and I'm really excited about the album, the Trip Out, which comes out in February, late February, and I'm really excited about the current single, which is a great collaboration between myself and Billy Dean Thomas, an amazing rapper and artist, and a really great producer by the name of Val, and that's getting some traction right now, getting in some playlists, and it's got a really great social message of I think it's a great play on words, and you're all over me, but you can't get your act right. Act right. Everybody's telling us how to do something, and they're a little bit hypocritical, and so I think it's a great I think it's a great track that kind of both sides can look at it and get something out of it in a way, and understand that, instead of throwing rocks, we should, be building, building up and instead of tearing down, we should be building up. So I love that. And then the next single is a real mid-tempo, bad as fuck, collaboration with my friend Hyper, who is actually in the Seattle area. He actually played with me in Portland. And so Hyper and I did this collaboration where we were able to sample Iggy Pop from this documentary. And so it's, Iggy was really kind and, and letting us, take his voice and his great dialogue from this documentary, this Jim Jarmusch documentary called "Gimme Danger," the story of the Stooges. And so that's the third single, and then the fourth single, which is it's a track called "Watch Me Now," which is which features Coda and Val. Is just it's a game changer. That one, it's a full on like, Born Too Slow, Name of the Game, but on steroids. It's gonna be something that that it changes a lot, and will be one that I can't wait for people to hear, and getting out and performing it live is something that I'm looking forward to doing in 2022. The story is still being written.
Awesome. And you mentioned the album drops. You're looking at February 2022, playing some current tracks on that. I like the fact you mentioned Act Right and the history or the meaning behind that. I was just on a phone call this morning with somebody talking about the mission statement of the DJ sessions, and how we started this was to have kind of an open door policy, or break down those barriers, or the good old boys club, the inclusion. Everyone should be able to hear the music, should be able to partake in sharing the music. And so acting right is kind of one of those things, just being right in the community, and being kind to others. So that kind of really hit a tone, hit me hard. So I'm really excited for that. You shared that with us. Is there anything else you want to let our DJ Sessions fans know about before I let you get back to work there in the studio?
No, just get back out there and give back to the community, go to shows, be a fan and be kind, and good things will happen, and I feel confident that the scene will come back, and the touring scene will come back, and people will get back out and enjoy their lives again, and it's just exciting to see the places that we obviously lost a bunch of venues and over the last 18 months. But it's exciting to see that someplace like the Crocodile is making the investment in the scene, and there are many others like them around the country and around the world. So, it's fantastic to listen to music on Spotify. It's fantastic to listen to live streams and to DJ streams, but it's nothing like getting out and going to a show and keeping the scene alive.
And Scott, we look forward. We know your story's not finished. Just as you said, we know it's continuing. It's going on. Where can people find out more information about you to stay up to date with what you got going on, and where they can find out what's coming up with the Crystal Method?
Well, you can follow me at the Crystal Method on Instagram. I'm on Twitter, but I don't really use I don't tweet, but it's at Crystal Method. There's the Crystal Method website, is thecrystalmethod.com, which is being updated right now. And of course, Spotify is the Crystal Method, and there's a YouTube channel, and you can check out the latest video for Housebroken on Ultra Music's YouTube page, and features Naz Tokyo and and really great fun video directed by Lauren Hasheen, and who's up and coming, super talented producer and director and artist in her own right. And so you know, it's 2022 is going to be a lot of fun.
That's what we're looking for. It's a lot of fun. I think there's going to be an explosion on many levels, and it's great to see that you're out there still pounding out, touring, song creating, album making. We're excited for you, Scott. Thank you so much for coming on the DJ Sessions. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Darren. And I like your Mackie shirt there. That was the first mixer we had, the 2408, I think it was, back in the day. That yeah, we and I still have a little Mackie 1202 over here, just as a little sidecar action here. So nice representing.
Thank you. We've been very honored, and we're very blessed to actually be sponsored by Mackie. They've come on board and really realized what the DJ Sessions vision was, and we have a very close working relationship with them. We use all their gear. I use one of their chromium mics for what we do here. I got their headsets. We got the mentioning of the sound system on the back of the mobile truck, which if we make it down to LA, I'll have to get you in this thing. You'll have to check it out.
Yeah, fantastic.
You got their SRM 15s, two of their SR18s in the back. It booms. I'm very impressed with the quality, and they're their hometown. They're right in our backyard here, awesome. Out of Woodinville, Washington. So it's really awesome using this stuff. And thank you for acknowledging that. Yeah, it's been an awesome relationship working with them. So thank you.
Absolutely.
On that note, I'll let you get back to work. I just got to do my typical shout out. It's like, don't forget to go to our website, thedjsessions.com, if you're watching this, and check out all our past episodes. Find us on Facebook, hashtag us on Twitter, Instagram, all that fun stuff, The DJ Sessions, or TDJS, if you're so bold. This is Darren and Scott Kirkland from the Crystal Method, coming to you from the DJ Sessions presents the virtual sessions. And we'll see you next time, because on the DJ Sessions, the music never stops.